Hi everyone, I'm Nate Drakenator, and today I just wanted to talk about some of the differences between My Little Ponies depending on their generation or their type, and just, I wanted to have a little fun, because who doesn't like My Little Ponies? Um, so in front of you right now I have four different generations, and Generation 1 is the very original, and it started in 1982, and it's actually really interesting, but before there was My Little Pony, there was a thing called My Pretty Pony, which was really, really big. They were like a foot tall, I think, and they came in more natural colors, and they had like a hat, and their mouths and eyes would move and stuff. So they were a really different toy, but they looked really similar. And originally, My Little Ponies were supposed to come in more natural colors like Appaloosa and black and brown and stuff like that. But then they decided to make them in sort of like fun cotton candy rainbow colors instead. And I mean, I'm not complaining. I love my horses. I love their pretty colors. I wish there were a couple that were in natural colors, just sort of for fun, but I'm okay. And then we have Generation 2, which lasted in the late 90s, and it only lasted for maybe a year or two, I think only one in the United States, and then afterwards it continued for a little while in Europe, but it didn't have anything coming out in the US for a while. And then after that, the G3s came out, which are really popular, and they made a whole lot of them. And then they made the Generation 4 My Little Ponies, which most people are familiar with today because they're the kind that you can go get at Target right now. And they've got the big Friendship is Magic cartoon, and they're super popular, and I think they're really cute. They're really, really small, though, but I love them. So those are just sort of a rundown on the four generations, but even within each generation, you had a lot of differences. So this is Glory. She's a unicorn, but not all ponies in Generation 1 looked like that. They had a lot of differences. This is this is Cotton Candy. She's one of the original ponies from 1982. They had like six that came out originally, and Cotton Candy was one of them. And you can always tell when a pony was released by their hoofs because they have a date on them. And you probably can't see it here, but hers says 1982 on her front right hoof. And that's how you can know when they were made because sometimes they re-release them later. Uh, so that's Cotton Candy, and I'm going to just sort of put her here. Oh no, Glory! And they also had some really interesting ones like this. This is Seashell, and Seashell's actually sitting down. And I think that's really fun and interesting because they didn't release a lot of these. They only had two of these released in the US, Seashell and Bubbles is yellow, and I don't actually have Bubbles. But they had this cool sitting pose that people really like because they also have this mark on their forehead like a real horse might have. There's also one that was released in Greece called Ladybird. She's sort of a peachy color, and she's really expensive now. Um, I've seen her go for over $1,000 on the internet. She's really popular. So that's Seashell. She's just gonna go right there. And then also, they had Pegasi, and now I don't actually remember her name. I think it might. No, it's not up and away. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. She's very yellow, and as you can tell, she's very soft because she's been flocked. And flocking is when you put this sort of fuzzy material on top of a toy, and they've got lots of toys these days that are also flocked, like the Puppy in My Pocket and Jungle in My Pocket, like blind bag toys. They're flocked, so they're fluffy, and they're very soft when you touch them. Uh, she's got some worn through on her wings where it's sort of rubbed off, but she's still looking pretty good for a toy that's had sort of soft stuff glued onto her for the last 30 years. Um, but she's a Pegasus too. So there's her. And then also they had, and I wish I had her wings, but they had flutter ponies. And they had these big, well, not huge, but they had plastic sort of clear wings, and then they had ones with little fairy little wings that were released way later. But they're much skinnier and shorter than other ponies, but they came out with a movie. Well, it was more of a made-for-TV short thing. And then also, you had baby ponies, and they're really, really small, and really, really cute, and they're little babies. And this one is actually also a Betty Bye eyes, so when you turn her upside down, her eyes shut, and she's got little eyelashes, so she goes to sleep if you put her upside down, and then she wakes up when you pick her back up again. Next up, they had Twice as Fancy ponies, also called TAFs, which is short for Twice as Fancy. And they had lots and lots of colorful markings all over their bodies. And this is Sugarberry. Sugarberry is like my favorite G1 My Little Pony, I think. Maybe one of my favorite ponies ever. I think she's so pretty. She's got bright red hair that I think is really, really cute, and all of these little strawberries, and then she's got one on her forehead, and I just think she is the cutest thing in the whole wide world, and I really hope that they make a G4 version of her so that I can give them my money and buy it. Next up is Sea Ponies. This is Celebrate. She came with like a birthday party pack, and she's actually a baby sea pony. She's really small. I don't have any adult sea ponies, unfortunately, but I do have this baby one, and she's really little. She's just a little bit taller than a regular baby, but she doesn't have any legs because she's supposed to be like a seahorse, and she lives in the ocean. So she also doesn't have like a tail that you can brush, and she's also really pearly and shiny. She's got pearlized paint on her, so she's a pearlized sea pony baby. She's got a lot going on that makes her really fun, and I really, really like this toy. She's one of my favorites. And then also they released these. These are called Brush and Grow My Little Ponies, and as you can see, they have super duper long hair. Like, this is Bouquet, and she just has so much hair. And the thing about them is that if you turn their head, you can make their hair grow into it. You can pull it back in so it gets shorter, and then when you brush it, you can pull it out and it gets longer. You're supposed to be able to brush it, but it's kind of sticky, and I don't like doing it. It makes me really nervous. But you're supposed to be able to brush it, and it just magically grows. I really like these ponies. I love their super long hair. I think it's so soft and pretty, and it's fun to brush and clean and play with. So that's Bouquet. And then also in the G1 days, they released a couple of other different things that I thought were really interesting, and I don't have a lot of them to show. But I do have, and now this is, Kingsley is really dirty. He needs a bath. I recently bought him from a gentleman at a convention, and he had bought them at a flea market, and they're really dirty, so don't worry about that. Most people's look much brighter and cleaner. But he's a lion. He's not actually a pony, but he was released as My Little Pony and Friends, and they released a bunch of different animals. Like, they had a moose, and a kangaroo, and a baby panda, and a cow. I really like the cow, actually. So they came out with a bunch of different animals, and they're all brushable and really cool and fun. And I think I want to mention this. It's technically not a My Little Pony, but it was released by Hasbro, who made My Little Ponies. And this is a bird, and it's called Fairy Tales, and they were actually a completely separate line that they started after My Little Ponies got really popular, but they didn't actually attach them to My Little Ponies, so they weren't sold under the brand, even though they're a really similar toy that you can brush, and they're made from the same plastic and with the same bright colors. But they didn't link them, and so they didn't do as well as I think maybe they might have if they did. But their feet open up and then clamp shut, so that you can put them on stuff. And they're actually not really that expensive. I got this one for $3 or $4, and I really like her. I think she's really pretty. This is from one of the later sets, so she's all tropical themed, and I really like her. And that's all the G1s that I have to show you today, but I've also got a couple of G2s and a couple of G3s, so let's check out those. This is Lightheart. She's a Generation 2 My Little Pony. She's actually bright white, and she has orange and pink and purple hair, and she's got a cutie mark on both sides. And back in the day, we actually called these symbols not cutie marks. That's actually a new word, and I'm really not complaining. I like the word. I think it works a lot better because it's nice and unique. Symbol could mean anything, you know. But Generation 2s were really cool because they were taller and they were kind of skinnier, and they looked a little bit more like horses maybe instead of ponies, which is interesting, but they do have noses a lot more, I think, like G4s do, where their heads go down instead of just sort of flat. And also, they had little hoofs, and I love their little hoofs. The only G1s that had hoofs were boy ponies. Oh, I actually have a boy pony. I don't have one with me, but I do have a photo, so I'm gonna put it in the corner over here for just a second. His name is Wigwam, and he's one of the original G1 boy ponies. But anyway, so this is Lightheart, and G2 ponies had little rhinestones in their eyes too. It's really difficult to see on camera, but they were really bright and they're really shiny in person actually. And then in addition to Lightheart, I have Clever Clover. And Clever Clover is a boy. And one thing that I think G2s did that was really interesting is that boy ponies, they have like the same molds as the girl ponies. And the boy ponies in G1 are a lot bigger than the girl ponies are, and the girl ponies just have flat hooves, but the boy ponies have hooves like a G2 does, where they have little floofs. And then there weren't any boy ponies in G3, and then G4 has Shining Armor, which is a much more square horse, and he's also got the little hoofies while the girls don't. But I really like that G2 had a couple of boys, and this is the only boy I own, but there were a couple of princes too, and they don't look any different from the girls, and I really like that. I think that's nice. They actually reused this mold, and there's a couple of girl ponies that came out of it, and I think that's really nice. They didn't make them any different, but one thing G2s did that G4s don't is that they have cutie marks on both sides of their butts, so you can put them on whichever side you want, and you don't have to worry about like one side not having a cutie mark or anything. So I really like that about them. There's also baby ponies in G2, but they were European only, so I don't have any of those either, unfortunately. There was a lot of releases of G2 ponies that only came out in Europe. They released, I think, something around 26 different ponies in the United States if you count a couple of ponies getting re-released with a little difference, like my Lightheart here, there's another version of her that's got some pink on her, and I've got another one whose only difference is there's like a green leaf around her cutie mark, but it's the same toy otherwise. But if you count those, I think there's 26 different releases in the United States, and then a couple of play sets. And then after that, they came out with unicorns and babies in the UK, but oddly enough, no Pegasi. Generation 2 is the only generation of My Little Pony that doesn't have any Pegasus ponies, which is really unfortunate, I think, because, I mean, I love Pegasus ponies. They did actually have a few ponies that came with, like, clip-on wings, but it's really not the same, you know? This is Whirl. She's a G3 My Little Pony, a Generation 3. She's from the early 2000s, and she's bright orange, and this is when they started doing cutie marks on only one side. So you have to have her on this side if you want to put her up, unfortunately. And G3 had a lot of fun stuff in it. Like, G3 also had baby ponies. She really needs a bath, I'm sorry. And I think the baby ponies are really fun if you sort of look at them next to each other. The G3 babies are actually way bigger than the G1 babies are. They're much taller, and they've got sort of like cuter looking faces and bigger eyes and stuff. So I think it's really interesting to look at them side by side. I don't actually know how big G2 babies are. I think they're pretty similar. You can also compare them to G4 babies, which are even smaller than both of them. This is Diamond Tiara, who also needs a bath. She barely comes up to her flank here. She's really small, she's got a really big head. And I like the G4 baby ponies, they're really, really cute. I love G4s, I collect them. But they're definitely a lot smaller than some of the earlier generations. But G4 has done a lot of interesting stuff. As for G4s, I've got DJ Pone 3 here, and as you can see, she's only a little bit bigger than the baby pony. But they do have a different facial mold and a different body, and she's got her little hoof up. And then I've also got another unicorn, Trixie. She's really early from the line. She's got glitter. No, this isn't the non-glittery one. I'm sorry. She's a lot earlier in the line. But then G4s have some really, really big ones that they made. Because they made some in super different molds, like this Nightmare Moon here, and then the fashion style ponies that they made. They're huge, but neither of these can quite compete with the styling size giants that they made. She is so big, she can't even fit in the frame. This is the biggest Pinkie Pie in the world, I think. They're just so big. I really like the styling sizes. You can do a lot with their hair and stuff. Like, you can have a lot of fun with these, I think. But they're so big. Uh, oh yeah, also, G4 has got Pegasi again. I mean, I've got a big Pegasi over there, but then I've got Flitterheart here, and she's much smaller, so you can see her pretty little wings. So, uh, most of these ponies are pretty different. I think it's really interesting when you look at the different interpretations between generations of what things look like. Like, I've got my G4 Pegasus here, and then I've got a G1 Pegasus over here. And they do this, like, totally differently. Like, Flitterheart's wings are out, like, away from her body, but Princess Tiffany's here are flat against her body, and that's how G1s always did it, where they were flat. And I think that's really neat, and I think that's really interesting. I really wish I had a G3 Pegasus here to show you. I do own a few. I might have a photo. If I do, I'll put it up in the corner over here so you can look at it next to them. But unicorns are also really different, and it's also just wild how much smaller G4s are than the original G1 My Little Ponies. They're really, really tiny if you compare them side by side. I think actually fashion styles are closer to their size. I mean, they're a little bit bigger, but I think it's more comparable in size, you know? Uh, but I think it's really interesting if you look at them all side by side and how different they can be. One of my favorite ponies is actually a fan-made pony. Her name is Jeannie, and I really like her. She's actually like clear, and you can put lights inside of her and stuff, and I really like Jeannie, but she's fan-made, which I think is really cool. Like, look how nice she looks. Last thing I want to talk about is Equestria Girls. And this is DJ Pone 3, one of her Equestria Girls dolls. She got a couple of them. And they made these dolls, and they're fashion dolls. So they're like horse girls, and then they have dresses and things like that. You're supposed to be able to decorate her. I got her on sale at TJ Maxx, and I was really excited because I love DJ Pone 3. I think her colors are really pretty. I'm gonna put it right there. So they came out with these, and they're really, really big, as you can see, compared to actual My Little Pony dolls. And so they've got this line going, and I'm not a personal huge fan of Equestria Girls. I buy them sometimes if it's a character I really like, but I think that they need more articulation. Their arms and legs can't bend, so there's really not a lot you can do with them when you want to play with them, unfortunately. And a lot of times they come broken in the box, I've heard. Sometimes people get them and they get two left arms, or they originally didn't actually have feet, they just had pegs that would go into their shoes, which I really didn't like, so I didn't buy any of those. So it's not that they're like horrible dolls or anything, but if I want to buy a doll, I'm probably going to buy a Barbie or a Monster High or a Pinky Cooper or something. I'm just not super into Equestria Girls, but I do really love Equestria Girls minis, which are much smaller and they're cuter, and you can't brush their hair. They don't have brushable hair, but they do have molded hair, so it's like really accurate to their cartoon and everything, and I think they're just so cute. Oh, Princess Tiffany. Their little knees bend so you can pose them, and then their arms bend. Not that way, but where's her giant? There it is. So you can bend their arms, and then you can rotate them, and their legs move. And I don't think they can usually stand on their own because they're so top heavy, but you can sort of generally lean them against something, okay? Or you can hold their foot, but I think they're really, really cute, and I have a bunch of them. I have a lot, and I love them. They're like my favorite thing that has come out of the Equestria Girls line, and honestly, I think they're worth it. Like, if I had to buy Equestria Girls dolls to get Equestria Girls minis, I probably would, because I really, really like them, and I just think they're the cutest things in the world. So, That's the big thing I wanted to talk about in G4. And if you like this video, you can leave a like down there. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can let me know in the comments, and I can get more ponies out to show you the differences between them. I can break out some from some of my boxes that are buried deeper, or I can get some more of my old photos and we can talk about them. Just let me know. And I hope you have a really good day. Nader's out.